Hey, this is Mike. Welcome to Atomics on a Friday. Thank you for checking out this demo. If you would like, subscribe and like to get more content in the future. Enjoy the demo. Got our little demo.
Demos.
Sweet.
It's alive.
Let's see if we can do this without breaking anything.
It works.
It works.
The pilot.
All right. This is exciting. Yeah, I don't even know where to begin. I'm so excited. All right. Yeah, so we recently have shipped, I think you wrote this one, Paul, for the HTML smuggling, right?
I did. It's a very...
Tell us about it.
Yeah, so the concept, as I mentioned earlier, came from a blog post from Stan over at Outflank from back in 2018, which basically is just an HTML file that has a little JavaScript in it. It's base64 encoded URL that's actually reversed. So there's a function inside of it that will then take base64, reverse it, decode it, and then download the ISO file, which is just hosted on GitHub in the Atomic Red Team repo. But the idea is to kind of show delivery, right? In some of the earlier examples we were touching on, generally see HTML to zip and then ISO, hiding the ISO in the zip to try and evade some of the mark of the web, which is to try and bypass and assume that there's things like attack surface reduction rules or anything that would prevent execution of those. So in this case, again, just thanks, Dan, for the great work. Literally just copy and paste, put some HTML tags around it and call it a day. But the idea is the same, right? So we're just kind of looking at different methods. And we think about where these HTML files are coming from. You have things like email clients or browsers, potentially. You're doing something like a G Suite where you just open it up. So keying off of HTML alone by itself, not necessarily probably a good one, just because HTML is built into like email files. But what happens off of it is kind of interesting. So one of the first things is going to be looking for interesting downloads. But in this case, because again, it's just the ISO file, that makes it a little bit trickier because generally speaking, you see the zip file first and then the ISO file extracted outside of it. But it's still a good test and kind of show like, okay, we got the ISO file on the box. Now let's open it and then continue the execution path and look at the different stages we can try and build and figure out where our detection and preventions can come into play here.
Yep. Yeah, this is a solid one for, helping folks kind of see the ISO dropping and where it's going and whatnot. Yeah. Yeah, this is just the HTML. I mean, this is literally what a lot of these malicious HTMLs look like coming in now. They may have some like cleaner looking, fancy things to see here, but otherwise this is it, right? Like a lot of it's just base64 encoded. And
I think we have an example of like a Dropbox or something a little more flair to it to kind of mimic what it may actually look like from the user perspective when they open up that HTML file.
Yep.
And then click through it.
Got it right here. Yeah, so this is one of the ones that I took from Proxy Life. There's Proxy Life on Twitter in the original slide there. But yeah, literally, once you open the HTML, it looks like this, and it will dump the zip file, attachment.zip, and it's also password protected. So it tells me my password, and I'm ready to go. On the inside, it looks like this, right? It's a little bit different. There's obviously a lot more here because it's more of a Dropbox type thing and wants to look like that. And then it has like a little Calvin and Hobbes text blurb in the comment here, and then some other little cool obfuscation type bits. Yeah. And one thing I was thinking about from detection, and I think about this, like how often are HTML files being brought in? And like as a defender, is it simple enough to just go and look for any HTML file, drop into downloads folder? Or, is it noisy? What do you think, Paul? Is that like a bad idea?
Downloads probably could get away with it. Trying to key off of like clients like Outlook or Thunderbird gets trickier, which is why it's a little bit difficult in like the kind of this first phase of it. We're trying to look at like the behavioral aspect of it, especially if they change it. Let's say it's no longer a zip and it's something else. Then we kind of are just playing the whack-a-mole game. But I think it's an interesting thought process, and who knows, maybe a quick quick alert and win for a basic file write of HTML inside the downloads folder is a good one. Who knows? It's gonna have to definitely play in the in various environment sizes.
Yeah, I even thought of like the like simply saying like, hey, like how many folks in my org are downloading ISO files, into the downloads directory? Like it's kind of, or a zipper ISO, right? I guess it would be. But yeah, I don't know. There's some interesting hunt avenues, I think, but I think there's gonna be a lot of noise too.
For sure. I think the ISO file write, to your point, is probably more rare than a zip file. We think a lot of places are using encrypted zip files to securely transfer files back and forth. Email, right? Sandboxes can't just open up an encrypted zip file without passing up parameters, which is why like some of these just bypass right through gateways because they don't have that capability.
Yep. So I guess we'll just jump back to our atomic test here for Smuggles. This is just straight from Atomic Red Team, and we're using invoke atomic and hitting our T number, and I'm just showing the details. And if you haven't used invoke atomic before out there, like it's as simple as that, just to kind of see what this test is. Obviously you can use like Atomic Red Team, like the GitHub repo, and look at it like on the markdown, which is probably a lot cleaner. But yeah, it's nice. Like we have our attack commands here. Like this is what's going to run when I execute this atomic. And then if we want to clean this up, this is the cleanup command. Most atomics out there have, everything like as far as cleanup goes and different things. Some atomics do have dependencies. So if this HTML file wasn't here, it would say, hey, like you need the HTML. And that's where the get prereq command will come in and actually go and grab that HTML file for me. Obviously, this comes directly from the repo. But otherwise, like I already have it. So I'm just going to run this. And yeah, there's literally nothing to see here. And there's my ISO. I'm just going to open that guy. Oh yeah, we forgot to fix that. Huh?
Somebody should fix that.
I think you told me I think you said something like that. No one's gonna open it or something, or I said
no one's gonna open it. We're like, we're good. It's fine because it wasn't the test of, because now we're going into a different thing, which is execution of the ISO and contents inside of it. So we're like, oh, it's okay, it's fine. Nobody's gonna open this.
No big deal.
And then we go and open it. So
there's nothing to see here.
If anybody knows how to fix it and wants to submit a PR, I know some people that may just be able to approve those.
So anyway, there's my ISO, and job done, job well done. Like it occurred, it worked.
It did what it was supposed to do, which is just write the file to disk.
Don't mount it.
We're good to go. Yeah, don't execute it.
This is why we're piloting things today. Okay, so I'll run the other test here in a minute, the actual malicious ISO from that CACBot campaign. But let me run our next test for funsies. And this is the actual, let me clear screen because it's becoming a lot here. All right, get out of here. All right, so let's do invoke atomic test T1553006. I'm gonna do show details. Actually, oh, did I get the wrong atomic key number?
Did you specify the
test? Number 5. Yes. Okay. So there's a lot of text in here. So you're like, Mike, that was a lot of text. Like, can you like slow that down? Yes. Okay. So you can do show details brief. And this will show you just how many tests are in here. And the way invoke atomic test works as well is because we're running on Windows, it will only show, Windows-based atomic tests, which is awesome. So obviously there's 4 atomic tests in here. The main one that I want to showcase today is test number 4. So I can actually just say here, show details on test number 4. And you can see there's a little bit more in here. The description is I want to execute an LNK from within all the things ISO. And it should spawn calc, right? And so we give you all the commands. This is all through PowerShell. It's going to, load up, download the ISO, load it up. And yeah, rock it from there. And then we do have some cleanup commands, I think, yeah, dismount the image and all of that. If there's any dependencies, again, dependency is the ISO is required for this particular atomic. So no more need for the details. Let's just run this thing and execute that LNK. Boom, we have our calc.
At least
all the APTs have occurred. And we could go, obviously, and see that mounted image. I don't know why I went network. There's no network here. All the things hanging out. And yeah, so this is what's inside that ISO. We have our DLL, and then we have our LNK. And because it's an atomic test, right? Like, it's nothing here we're trying to obfuscate or hide or anything like that. We're just sending it down range. It just works. I actually just realized what's really cool about this is it's using... yeah, that's cool. Anyway, but yeah, so that's that. That's our little LNK, and that's our DLL. Same thing. Let's ship downrange real quick for fun, extra fun. Let's run that PG1. I think I already have it mounted, so that's a good place to start. Let's go dig inside here. So this particular thing, right, this was hidden. I just unhid it. Inside our LNK, just like what Proxy Life had showed on his tweet, it does Command C tools, and it runs this bat file renamed to CMD, and it's going to pass these regsv variables in. So what is in the tools directory? Great question. There's our DAT file and or DLL. There's like some random stuff, and props to the great artwork. Excellent. I just wish it was more magical. And there's like some random text because, I don't know, it's got to look cool, right? And then empty directories. But flipping to that bat file real fast, there's a lot going on here. And again, this is meant to evade whatever kind of, sandbox on the mail gateway side. They're using environment variables. They're copying things, and that's where your copy right here. Moving things around, and in this particular case, it's renaming redserve32 to envelopingconcussion.com. So it renames it, it moves it, and renames it, and then it will load that tools bucketfuls dat file DLL. So that's how this one operates. So yeah, I mean, the whole idea right now is to just click on that LNK, and then I don't get an invoice. I don't get anything cool out of this one, unfortunately. That's it.
You get malware.
I get malware. Yeah. that's it.
That's the better prize out of all of this.
Yeah. Yeah, something I didn't dig into. I'm just gonna back up here real quick into what's more cooler than malware. I agree. Something that I wanted to show here. So obviously the simple method is just to deliver straight up base 64 run, very simple. What I found interesting with this particular sample is obviously it's a very long base 64. There's more here than meets the eye. But I noticed that, your first pass, you're like, what's going on? Why are the equal signs over here? But then that's what I noticed, like when I was looking at this, like very quick triage, obviously it's base 64, but I noticed this reverse. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like, is this reversed base 64? And so I went to the ultimate little tool called CyberChef, and I dropped in my base 64, and here it is, just like as it was in that HTML. I can reverse it, and boom, we have the reversed piece of it, and then I'll just decode it. And then there's your next stage, right? Like, that's how deep these guys are going to evade the controls and everything like that. So it's a HTML file with base 64 that's reversed, and inside here is the zip file that's obviously password encrypted. So there's a little bit of extra layering going on here. So if you're quickly triaging these things, this is kind of like how deep these guys are willing to go to evade anything that's, inspecting and whatnot. Yeah, that's that. And then what else? Is there anything else that I'm missing here, Paul?
No, I think those are the two that we hit.
Okay. And then I'll showcase a little bit of stuff here in Splunk, just using straight sysmon, literally pulling out, these like an ISO L&K within like the recent folder here, just stuff that's dropping to disk, just other ways to kind of hunt for these things happening on, on an operating system for Windows. You can go for other ones like IMG or VHD, things like that. And I know we're hitting 30 minutes, but same thing with the registry. Anytime a new ISO is loaded up, it'll pop into recent docs. It could be noisy if folks are constantly opening up ISOs, things like that. So there's just some avenues, places to go. Yeah, so I just kind of played with this one here, kind of showing the regsurf32 loading up that DAT file. And I think I have one more. Yeah, maybe two more. But this one, here's the renamed regsurf enveloping concussion, loading up the DAT from the tools directory within the ISO. I actually thought that might be a really cool hunt, is like not looking for a path in here. So like outside of like a renamed binary, I thought this would be kind of neat to just go after like things that don't have like a C dollar or anything like that, C colon, going for like just a directory ending in. Obviously you can go for DATs. There's obvious things that we could hunt on just like that too. I don't know. I think there's more here for sure.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting on this one is that it copies it over, so the execution comes out of C drive. In other samples and things that I've looked at is that the execution will have the path of whatever drive is mounted from that ISO file. So instead of being C, it'll be D, E, F, G, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like a red flag. Like, okay, why is it loading from a completely different drive? Now, not super uncommon, but depending on the environment, like that could be extremely interesting to look at, is execution out of non-standard like C drive paths, or, mount properly, normal mounted drives, at logon.
Yep. And yeah, just kind of a quick show from that bat file of Command C, running it, passing these, and then showing the little items here. But yeah, it's all really interesting. Keep saying interesting, but it's interesting.
It's all interesting.
It's just so interesting. But even like from like a